Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Aparo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights. I am so excited about today's webinar around artificial intelligence, or AI. If you're anything like me, even though it's been a trendy topic, don't know too much about it, just started to dip my toes into it. But from what I've seen, every time I'm just blown away by its power. So I'm excited to share this with you. I hope more and more nonprofits are taking the time to learn about the power of AI and how they can leverage these types of tools to truly elevate their work by making more informed decisions. And also it saves time. So today we are going to be focusing on AI as it relates to your fundraising success. So we have Jerry Montgomery here today with us from 5W Insights, and he's going to take you all through how you can leverage AI to get to know your donors so that you can fix your fundraising strategies and get some more funds. So before we get into that, a few housekeeping details. This webinar is being recorded. All of you attending today will receive a follow-up email from me that includes a link to the recording as well as these slide decks. Q&A and chat are available for you to use to ask questions, make comments. Please feel free to use that throughout the presentation. And then closed captioning is available if you'd like to use that. So if you are new to Aparo, very quick summary, Aparo is a nonprofit based in Charlotte, and we work to connect other nonprofits with technology and business process expertise so that you can increase your efficiencies, so that you can amplify your impact in the communities and populations that you serve. These are our 3 buckets of services. Just to summarize, we have one-on-one consulting with our tech therapists. We also offer customized team trainings and workshops, as well as these webinars, and also have our bigger projects where we help you find a tailored solution to your technology challenge or need. Now, I do invite you to go to our website, aparo.org, to learn more about that. And then really quickly, and also very exciting, is we have a special bonus for all of you attending this webinar today. I'm going to let Jerry speak more to it, but just so you know, it's coming. And then finally, these are the different ways to connect with us. You can visit aparo.org/nonprofits if you want to go ahead and submit a request for our services. You can subscribe to our email list, or you can contact me directly. And then with that, I will stop sharing and go ahead and turn it over to Jerry right now. Jerry?
All right, great. Hello, everyone. I won't be talking about how to use AI to increase your donations. First off, I'd like to thank Aparo very much for this opportunity. I think they're a great organization, really giving a lot of value to nonprofits. What I'm going to be talking about today is where you can increase your success in fundraising using AI. So most fundraisers don't know much about AI. In fact, over 90% of you on the questions that were asked for the attendees don't know much at all about AI, and also don't have a good understanding of who your best donors are, or who your donors are. There's the question of, can it even increase value, and can you do it easily, affordably? And the answer to that question is almost anybody can benefit from AI. And that's one of the most powerful things about AI, is that it simplifies everything and automates a lot of the analysis. So you don't need any AI expertise or analytics expertise to benefit from it. You don't need any data other than your own data, because the data often comes in the tools. And you don't need much time or money to start to get benefit from that. And that's what I'll show you. First, I'll give you a little bit of background. I have been working in artificial intelligence for 42 years. So I was in the military, and I led one of the first efforts to field and put into daily operational use an artificial intelligence systems for diagnosing the B-1 bomber. And I was also the lead project engineer on a DARPA program, a Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, to apply AI to create an automated co-pilot. And so when I left the Air Force, I dealt with a lot of other organizations. We sold thousands of data mining AI tools. And then what I learned is to give value, it's more about the application. So it's more about marketing. It's more about the things you know, and how do you take the information and get value from it than the technology. So since 1997, I've been focusing, in my companies have been focusing strictly on artificial intelligence and data mining applied to direct marketing and fundraising. To show you how AI applies, I'm going to show you our tool called AIM5. I'm not here to sell you a tool, but I do need to show you what the tool does so you understand what the AI system can do for you. And I'll give you an example of the insights brief, an automatically AI generated insights brief that it'll generate for you. Where literally you just spend 30 seconds of your time and you can get this automated AI analyst, you can get the value from the tool. So this will give you a good idea of where it applies. I'll talk to you about some of the actions you can take to increase donations from the information produced from the insights and models. And I'll talk about some more general applications of where you can apply AI to donations. And then many of you, by the time I get through this, you're going to be asking, well, where's the AI in this? Because it's all automated. And so I'll show you that, and I'll show you and give you a definition of AI that's very practical. I'm not going to tell you AI is about emulating human intelligence. There are some very practical things that it does, and I'll talk to you. And then I'll tell you how to get a free AI insights brief for those that are interested, and then questions and discussion. And so hopefully you get a lot of information here, but you don't have to learn everything here. Anybody can contact me. I'm happy to talk to you about how AI applies outside of this setting, and have a phone call with anybody that's interested in increasing their donations. And so I'm happy to do that, and I think a lot of you could get some value from that. So I'll start with a very simple question. What do my donors look like? And so this is one of the key questions that this AI tool can answer. To answer that, one way to get at it is just give the tool a list of a sample of your donors, their names and addresses, or email addresses, or phone numbers. You also need to tell it your market area. So do you want to just focus on Charlotte, or you want to focus nationally, or do you want to focus on a radius around your location? And then once you do that, you just name it and say go, and you'll get an insights brief. Now, what the tool will do is it sits on top of hundreds of characteristics of 260 million consumers in the US. So that's where it gets a ton of its data and information from. And it's basically going to take the information you give us about your donors and match it to that database, so that we'll know hundreds of things immediately about who your donors are, and we can compare them to other people in your market. So the tool, that's what it does, is it automatically does that. And to show you the tool is you just drag and drop a file of say the names and addresses of your donors. You tell us, did we get the first name and the address and the city, state, zip right, and the email fields right? You may have named them in the file funny, so you need to tell us what they are if we didn't guess them right. And then you say the market area. So you can tell us the whole nation, or which states, like North Carolina, or zip codes, or some radius around your locations. And then you name it. So you can put like your nonprofit name and call it a donor lookalike, and you say go. And when it's done, you'll get an email, and then you log back in. And you don't have to use the tool. For those of you who don't want a tool, you just send us the file, and we'll send you this insights brief back. So you don't even have to worry about using that tool. But as you can see, that tool is very easy to use. And so this is where all the magic in AI goes. This is a PDF. that you'll get back, a PowerPoint presentation. In this case, we did this for the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. We analyzed people that visited the website, Fine Arts web visitors, and that lived within 30 miles of their museum that is in Richmond, Virginia. And so once you have this PDF, these are example pages out of that document. The goal of this is to immediately try to give you some understanding of your core demographics, the 7 core demographics, things like ethnicity, affluence, generation, marital status, gender, children, and urbanicity. And we're constantly, in this analysis, the donor lookalike, we're comparing the donors, or in this case, their Fine Arts web visitors, what they look like versus the market average. So that's what MA stands for. So for example, 53% are married versus only 40% of the people living within 30 miles of their museum are married. And so 81% are white versus a market average of 74%. 61% are female versus a market average of 53%. And this is the specific area around their museum that we're looking at. And then we'll give, in the insights brief, we'll give some pretty straightforward, easy to understand bar charts to help you get a feel for the characteristics of your donors. So in this case, 52.8%, 53% are married versus the blue. The orange is their market or donors, or in this case, their web visitors versus the blue, which is the market. And so you can quickly see that there's a bias towards being married. And then it'll show you a lot of other characteristics. This is generation. So you can see the orange bar on the left is 16.88% are millennials or Gen Z versus a market average of 24%. And as you go from millennials, Gen Z to Gen X, and Gen X is still underrepresented, and then baby boomers. They're more likely to be baby boomers. 34% of the Fine Arts web visitors are baby boomers versus 24% living in their market area. And then post-World War II, the older generation is also more likely to go to a fine arts museum. And then in addition to the demographics, and a lot of people may know those things about their market, it also looks at hundreds of other attributes and it picks the most interesting ones. So in this case, they're more likely to be Facebook users. And that's in large part because they skew to an older population that tends to use Facebook more than Instagram. So 40% of the web visitors use Facebook versus 14% of the market. 52% subscribe to magazines versus 30% of the market. And 63%, this is good news, are interested in charity, have a charity interest versus 42% of the market. And so then you can see the charts for Facebook. You can see the charts they tend to be more into healthy living. And then it'll attempt to segment we have a segmentation system that'll segment the market. In this case, we call it Eagles 24. Eagles stands for ethnicity, affluence, generation, lifestyle like marital status, gender, and presence of children, and the environment is a rural, town, or suburban or urban. When you look at consumers, we've done these types of segmentation systems and clustering tools for many different companies. When you look at consumers, these are the key factors to segment the consumer market. So the tool will automatically tell you things about the segments. So these are the top 3 Eagles 24 segments: affluent seniors, affluent families, and families. And these all vary dependent on the data you give it, the donors that you have. And you can see how all the 24 segments index. So striving singles has a low likelihood of being striving singles. They're obviously not interested in fine arts or going to museums and stuff like that, where seniors are much more likely to go to a website. Affluent seniors are the most likely. And so you can quickly see which segments are useful. And the tool will give you pages where you can see each and every different segment. For example, young affluent families is a good segment. It has a market average of 0.62% versus 0.31%, more than twice as likely if you're a young affluent family to go to the Fine Arts Museum or visit their website. So what I do with this information, so this gives you a lot of insights and information. So one, you quickly get a feel for your, and you spend 30 seconds. Once you have your file, you just spend 30 seconds either sending it to us or loading it up on the thing and say, go, you get all this information. So one, you can use this segmentation information to select better lists from that. And so you can use it in your targeting engagement. Two, you can start to understand your segments better. So there may be some segments that you perform poorly in that you want to improve on. For example, you may learn that certain ethnicities, you don't have a percent of minorities that you would like donating or involved in your organization. You can learn that and you can track it easily using this type of segments.
Jerry, we have a quick question. Can you clarify the striving singles versus singles?
Striving singles are people that make less than $50,000 a year. So you can see singles here are 36 to 65, 50,000 to 89,000 in revenue, single and no children. Striving single, does it have it in here? Striving singles are 36 to 65. They make less than 50,000. So that's the key difference. They're single and no children. So it's a good question. So that difference in income is huge. Somebody less than 50,000 has totally different behavior, less likely to give as much or visit a fine arts thing. Or if they're in $50,000 to $89,000 range, then their behavior is quite different. So the other thing you can do with this information is you can target your content. So, affluent seniors, that's where you may want to ask for a bequest. It's a legacy gift. They're thinking about what their legacy is going to be. And so that's quite a different conversation that you would want to have with them versus young and getting started. You don't want to ask young and getting started for $1,000 donation. 35, you get them up $35, $50 or $20 a month. You may want to focus more on monthly giving, smaller donations to get them involved so that over time you can grow that relationship. Single parents, you may want to focus on doing stuff with the kids. Like the Fine Arts Museum has a whole set of programs for kids and getting them interested in art and workshops and things like that to involve the kids in it. And young affluent couples often will donate a significant amount of money. So you can see how much they're donating, you can see what your penetration into that segment is. And that might be a good segment to engage, but your conversation with them would be a lot different than some of these other groups. And then another aspect that you'll learn is personality. So part of what the tool does is we had over 600,000 people we knew their personality types. So if you're acquainted with Myers-Briggs personality types, we've got our AI system went in and looked at those 600,000 people we knew their personality types, and it created a model where it estimated the personality types of over 200 million US adult consumers. And so this is very useful information and can help you increase donations too. So we can quickly tell you. So for example, for this fine arts application, only 0.96% of them were ENTPs versus the market average of 2.74%. So you can quickly see which personality types, NTs, 8.45% versus 5.55%. So we'll often find that NT and rationals, they tend to have higher income and a different personality. Then you would want to engage them differently than other ones such as idealists or artisans or guardians. And so not only do you get a feel for the personality types, but the content you want to give them. So an extrovert, you may want, if you have social events, an extrovert's going to be all in. An introvert, not so much. An introvert, you may want to focus on more like if a museum, that they can go someplace quiet and enjoy the museum on their own, where an extrovert, you may want to have more social conversation with them. Thinkers versus feelers. A thinker like me, I want to see numbers. How are you going to use my donation and how much value is it going to give? And give me numbers and show me how you're going to leverage that donation, where a feeler is more into the cause and emotional story. And so it's been shown, even subject lines on emails, you can adjust based on this information to get a significant increase in responses based on the way you approach different individuals. And then geography. So geography, knowing the geography, and this shows the zip codes, the counties around Richmond, you can start to see which zip codes, for example, are more likely to have people interested in or look like your donors, for example. Beyond that, where the AI is we will often do models. So a zip code has an average of 6,500 adults in it. There's about 40,000 zip codes in the United States, 5-digit zip codes. A zip plus 4, there's 34 million. There's an average of 7 people in those zip plus 4s. And so many of you all aren't aware that you can go in, and when you do lists, you go out and acquire outside lists to market to them. You can select in a lot of the lists by zip plus 4. There's an average of 7 adults in a zip plus 4. And what we do is we'll create an AI model that will score all 34 million zip plus 4s, and we can tell you with this tool exactly which zip plus 4s you should target. Some 5-digit zip codes have 50,000 adults in them. They're huge. And 6,500, if you look at a zip code, you can go from very wealthy to very poor, all within that zip code. With the zip plus 4, you'll see often thousands of zip plus 4s within a zip 5. So you can use the modeling technology to identify not only individuals, but the zip plus 4s. And again, you don't have to do anything. That tool, we can just tell you what they are. This is an AI model. So this is just showing the model performance. In this case, it was able, we would score everybody in the market area. And we were able to say in the top 10%, the 10% in that market area, it could be millions of people, the top 10% of those with the highest score, 16.5% of them visited a fine art museum within the last 90 days, fine arts museum website within the last 90 days. 0.39% on the bottom visited. So you can see that we can pick out the people based on all the characteristics that we know about, and these AI algorithms can go in and identify what these individuals look like so that you can engage these people most likely to be interested in your cause or look like your donors than you can using simple selects or simple criteria. And then you can use this information to select audiences. So you give it, you can do it by donor lookalike, or you can do it by campaign. If you have a direct mail campaign, we can model who was mailed and who responded versus who didn't, and are the donor lookalikes. And we can go in and score, this tool score everybody in your market and prioritize the top, whatever, 10% or 50,000 people or 1,000 people that you want to engage. And we can do that by name and address. And then we can help you identify those audiences. So once we know who they are, you can onboard them and do display advertising to them, social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, email, mobile, direct mail, or phone call if you're all set up to do that, or even broadcast. So all these channels, once you know who your audience is, nowadays you can ID these people and engage them on multiple channels. The key is figuring out who they are, and these AI algorithms do a much better job at identifying exactly who are your best prospects or donors than the non-AI techniques. So for those of you that don't want to put up data or don't have much donor data, like that fine arts ones we just showed, we didn't get any data from the museum. we know for thousands of different categories of websites who visits them. We know who visits children's donor nonprofit sites, for example, and we can go in and use that to model it. So you tell us your cause and you tell us what geographic area you're interested in, and you say go. And it can go in and develop and do an analysis or a model. In general, knowing who your donors are or who responds to your campaigns will give you a better analysis and model. But you can, if you don't have a lot of donors or you want to go in a new area, there's a lot of data that could be used where you don't have to provide any information. Just tell us who you want to engage or target, and we can identify who they are and people that look like them. So how do you increase donations? We've increased the success of many marketers and fundraisers, 50% in 12 months. First off, better understanding who your donors and prospects are is huge. And it doesn't cost you much to do it. Our analysis is like $950 for that insights brief, and we'll do 5 of them free. So that doesn't cost hardly anything. In the past, and I've even worked with an agency last year that was charging $25,000 to $50,000 for insights and a presentation, no model, for insights that wasn't even close to the one automatically produced by our tool. And the reason was they were doing it manually. They had analysts and data people getting the data, and they did everything manually. And it took them 6 weeks for a $25,000 analysis that we can do with our AI technology and years of automation experience automatically. So that's what AI is doing, is it's greatly reducing the time and effort. You can identify segments that are focused on that you can use to increase your success, and you can track how well those segments are performing over time. So if you want to do better in a younger segment, for example, the segmentation algorithms can help you do that. You can do better content by tailoring the content to different segments. And then you can use geographic demographics and create models to identify audiences that you can engage across channels. And so the models are key, as well as learning which geographies you may want to target. And then the applications. So one is a lookalike model. Just find lookalikes. Another one is a past donor model. So most of you, if you all market actively to your past donors, generally, if they've given in the last couple of years, you're going to market to them all. But those that haven't given to your organization in 3 to 10 years, there are individuals there that are very likely to give. It's just not cost effective to market to all of them. And so these models can go in and pick out the ones that are going to give you the biggest return on investment, where you're getting a positive. You get more donations than it costs you to engage them. Campaign models. You can do the campaign models for direct mail is easy. You mail 100,000 pieces, you look at who responded, and you give that file of names and addresses and a flag who responded and didn't, and say go to the tool. It'll go in and create a model, and you can apply that to a new list. So you only market to or mail to the ones most likely to respond. You can do that for email. You can do it for digital ads, for clicks, for texts. So all these campaign models. And again, you don't need an analyst on staff to do this. You can do it using a tool. You can also estimate the gift size. And that's key. Generally, you don't want the most responsive. You want the people that are where you're going to make the most money. So that gets into expected value models. So if I know the expected amount of the gift and I know the likelihood of response, I can combine those two. So I'd much rather have a donor that responds at half the rate but gives us $500 than somebody twice as likely to respond that's going to give us $20. And so your return on investment by marrying an expected gift model with a likelihood of response model, you're able to get a much higher number of donations than you'd otherwise would. And then things like attrition models. You can use this to identify those most likely not to give in the next year, so that you can take action and engage them more and focus, especially the ones that are giving you a lot of money, focus attention on those likely not to give in the near future. So I don't see any questions. Now the question is, well, where the heck's the AI? That was all simple and user, and some of you may be thinking, well, I can do that all with conventional technology. To some degree, yes, but it just won't be near as good. So the AI was used in that, we got literally thousands of attributes there that we know or estimate about the 260 million consumers. So we estimate their interests based on consumers that we know what they do, that they like gardening or whatever they like to do, that they give to charity. We can develop models to estimate that for many more people. The personality types is a good example where AI was used to develop really sophisticated models to guess at the personality of each person. And those guesses can make you, increase your donation substantially. So yes, it'll be wrong some, but it'll be more right than wrong. And you'll make more money by using that information than not. And then there's rules in that which characteristics to show and which combinations should be used. So there's rules inside of the tool that tailor that insights brief based on what factors are going to be the most useful for you to understand. And then the models, and I'll show you an example of a model that go in the AI models will give you a better prediction of who looks like your donors, who's likely to respond to that campaign or estimate the amount of the donation. So the AI models can give you higher performance, a bigger ROI. And so the key is that AI actually simplifies things if it's used right. So you can take advantage of it. It's hard to go in and manually develop a model and do those analysis manually, and very costly. So artificial intelligence automates the heck out of it. You just have to figure out how do you use the information and focus on what you know, how to raise money, and how do you use that information. You don't need to understand what's going on with the AI algorithms. From a practical point of view, artificial intelligence, to me, I could care less how close it mimics human intelligence. There's three things. Deal with extreme complexity. That's what human experts do well. They deal with hundreds of thousands of special cases very, very easily and better than any simple logic can do. They handle uncertainty. They make judgments. What is the likelihood this person's going to give? What is the likelihood that they're going to give over $500? And so that's key with the AI algorithms. And they learn. They acquire that knowledge or how to do stuff on their own. So dealing with more complexity, more uncertainty, and be able to automatically learn and build the models. That's where the AI is. And that's what differentiates them from most conventional algorithms. They're just another set of software techniques that deal with more complexity, uncertainty, and they learn on their own. That's what AI is. And that's why they appear to be intelligent, because the past algorithms weren't very smart. They couldn't deal with extreme complexity. And if it's really done right, it's simple to use, invisible, and seamless. So you have this combination of conventional techniques and conventional technology and software and things like Tableau, and you marry that with the AI techniques to get better information easier. So it's seamless. It's not this block is AI and this is conventional. It's just another set of tools that deal with certain problems better than the older algorithms dealt with. Now, let me scare you a little bit. This is, I'm trying to give you an example of the complexity. So if you want to figure out who's most likely to donate, say you were looking at 11 factors: ethnicity, income level, generation, married, children, and other factors, and how recently did they give to a similar cause, how much did they donate to charity last year, things like that, just 11 factors. If you look at these combinations, there are 1 million combinations. And then when you add one more, like do they use social media, that doubles it. So there's 2 million combinations. That's a very large number of possibilities. So what we do with conventional logic is we'll say, well, we want people that make over $90,000 a year and that are baby boomers. So we simplify. And yeah, that could be effective. It's just not going to be as effective as a system that can deal with a lot more of these combinations effectively. And so, and this is just 11. And now imagine having hundreds of potentially relevant factors. So these AI algorithms will go in there and figure out which factors, and it'll develop a model to deal with many more situations and cases than is practical to deal with simple or conventional logic. Now I'll talk about one specific AI technology, and this is called neural networks. Neurons are human brain cells. A neural network supposedly simulates human brain cells in the computer to give us models. Well, those analogies I don't care about, and they're not great analogies, but it literally how this technology developed was based on that analogy. Here's what's going on with neural networks from a practical perspective. First off, it's a mathematical function. So functions are used throughout science because they can deal with much more complexity in a very compact form. I don't need millions of rules. I just need a good function. So here's an example of a function. The C1, C2, 3C, and C4 are just coefficients. They're just factors. So some factor times income plus some factor times age plus some factor times marriage, flag, and distance. You can have a long function. This will give you a better result than a simple rule based on income and age, or a lot of rules. And this is a simple function. For most problems, you need a more complicated function to get really good results. So what you need, and to develop this manually, is just too much time and money. It's just not practical. So you need a fantastic function finder, because functions can deal with these millions of combinations. It can deal with a large subset much more practically than you can do with millions of rules or even hundreds of thousands of rules. So that's what a neural network is. It's a fantastic function finder. And regression is a function finder. It's just neural networks often will beat regression. And so a neural network is just a bunch of simple equations. And these say they're equations like that are pretty simple, where they have inputs. So the inputs could be income, age on the far left, the orange. They could be those factors, and the output is the likelihood that they're going to respond to your direct mail campaign, or the likelihood that they will give to your cause. That's the output. And in between, we have all these simple equations, and the learning algorithm in neural networks just learns what the coefficients are in all these green little nodes, these little green neurons. Some of the neural networks have thousands of nodes. And so that's what's going on, is that's what the neural network algorithm's doing. But at the high level, it's just finding a very complex function that can estimate likelihood they'll become a donor based on all the factors we know about them. And the beautiful thing is these algorithms are totally automated, and they will beat any simple set of rules that you've got. They can easily model simple stuff, but they can also model much more complex stuff. So that's what's going on with the neural network. Just to give you a feel, is they're just able to deal with more complexity. And so I could care less, again, that they look like human brain cells. We really don't know how neurons work. We have a basic idea. But the key is these neural networks algorithms are fantastic function finders, and these functions can deal with extreme complexity in a very compact form. They handle uncertainty. They can estimate likelihoods and amounts and stuff like that very well. And they're automated. They'll learn on their own. Makes them extremely powerful. We just need to give them examples. In the vast majority of cases, not all, the vast majority of cases, who cares what is in this? You can treat them as a black box. You just need to know if you use the model, you're going to make more money. And you can statistically prove that this black box, when you use it, you make a lot more money. There are some applications where you need to know what's going on inside of it, but the vast majority of them, you just have to worry about which algorithm makes you the most money and how much did it cost to get that model. And so the AI tools, this price is coming way down. And with good algorithms, you blend the conventional, and so you really don't care where the AI is, where the conventional. You just know that the AI can give you better performance in many cases. So, was there a question? Yeah, we do have some cases where nonprofits have applied AI to their donations. That ZIP+4 model, for example, we were able to go in and show, they went out and they purchased a bunch of lists, so like from Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it was children's causes, from children's lists and stuff like that. And the problem was they couldn't get the list beforehand that cherry picked the ones that they won. So they were ending up getting a relatively lower response rate than they could if they could just go in and pick the top 50% of them. So by doing a ZIP+4 model, we were able to give the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the people who provided that list, a list of all the zip codes, the ZIP+4s. We gave them a list of 10 million of them. And they were able to go in and give us only people in those ZIP+4s, where we were basically able to cut off the bottom 40% of who they were mailing to get much more profitable lists. So that's just one example. So there's lots of examples. The Salvation Army, we identified groups of people that were much more likely to give big donations than other people. So the donation amount, so you're probably, a lot of y'all are using models now and stuff like that, and some of them may be AI models. These models are just better. And so it's the question is more, how can you take these models and these insights and how do you apply it? And a lot of times you're already selecting the list. Now, how do you use this technology to select it better? And we've done a number of not-for-profit, AAA, for example, and ARP, we did analysis for. Some of the AAA clubs, we allowed them to acquire 53% more members within the first year for 14% less of their budget. And we did that using these techniques to pick better engaged people and pick better people that are much more likely. We just did a campaign where we got a 60% improvement over the previous vendors' models. And they were using, simple models. They weren't using AI technology. And that was the difference. And that's an extreme case. Normally, we don't give you 50 or 60%, but sometimes we do. Normally, it's 10 to 20%, which is pretty good. So the ZIP+4 is the nine-digit zip code. And so a 5-digit zip code averages, there's 40,000 in the US, they average 6,500 adults in each 5-digit zip code. A ZIP+4 is a much tighter thing. There's only an average of 7 adults in each ZIP+4. There's 34 million of those in the United States. So it's much better to target groups of 7 people than groups of 6,500. So in a zip code, you can go from extremely wealthy to extremely poor, all within one zip code. A ZIP+4, that doesn't happen very often. These individuals are pretty much the same. And the models, you need to use models because you don't have statistics on 34 million zip codes. You don't have enough examples. So you create models of what those zip codes look like, and that's what the AI algorithms do, is they'll rank the likelihood people will respond in each ZIP+4. And anybody interested, I'm glad to have another conversation offline or a call. Just email me. My email will be on the briefing. And then for the people that are interested, if you give an indication, Yentin will pick 5 attendees. We'll do a free insights brief. And we'll, spend an hour on the phone talking to you about what it means and how you can apply it. You'll learn more about your donors and prospects and how to apply AI to increase your donations in that hour than I can think of anywhere else. And I would certainly enjoy helping you get the value where you can get it. You got to be very careful. A lot of times you can spend a lot more money than you're going to make. And we have a lot of experience to avoid you doing that. And then some questions. So I'll open it up to any questions that you all have.
Yep, so we had a couple questions come through the Q&A. So one of them is, are there trial AI tools, a reference website, for example, where they can play around with this type of technology at no cost?
We can give, on our tool, there are in different companies have different policies. A lot of them you'd have to talk to see if they give you a free trial. We can give somebody a free trial and let you play around with it, or the cost of the we'll do 5 of them for free. Normally for a basic insights brief, it'll be $950. We'll do $500 for anybody that's not selected for that raffle. So it's pretty inexpensive. And we're happy to show or talk to somebody to do that. We're happy to let them play around with the tool online if they're interested.
Yeah. And you mentioned this a little bit, but what other nonprofits are now using or starting to use these types of AI tools with this level of complexity?
The most large ones are doing models now. And so there's whether you use them regression, a lot of them will use, like our tool will use regression algorithms, and it'll try decision tree algorithms like random forest, which is another AI technique. We have a unique type of neural network type algorithms in ours. We'll try all of them and pick the best. So a lot of the modeling nowadays involves some type of algorithms that a lot of people would consider artificial intelligence. A lot of the data, like the consumer database, we have 260 million individuals. We work with 4 of the major data providers to do models and estimate characteristics. So a lot of that data is estimates. We don't actually know all these things about people's hobbies and stuff. For each individual, we'll know the likelihood that they'd be doing that. And a lot of that's using advanced models to do that. So I would say that most people that are doing modeling, estimating gift size, there's companies out there that'll tell you what the optimal gift ask is based on AI techniques. So it's becoming seamless and widely used. From your all's perspective, it's not complicated. You just give it the data and say go, and you get a model and you test out. You figure out how to use that information. That's the challenge. It's not understanding how neural network works. It's just knowing it can give you more value. So I would say most nonprofits, most ones that are doing fundraising well, or you taking advantage of these either through their agencies or directly.
So you mentioned like the larger ones are doing these types of complex models. Do you find that like smaller nonprofits just starting out or mid-sized nonprofits find a lot of value in this type of tool?
Well, most of them aren't doing it, just like most of the people that answered said they didn't know their demographics or interests. So, for $500 to $1,000 to get these insights and know who they are, just provide their donors or tell us who their donors they want to target is. We can tell them what they look like. That's pretty inexpensive to do that. And we need to talk to them because it's hard to make sure they get value. If somebody's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars doing direct mail campaigns or online ads or stuff like that, generally these models will give a good value. And we're one of the few tools where you can do that for hundreds or a few $1,000s. You get a great model and you get audiences, and you got to test it. So the more you spend on fundraising, the more value you give. But for smaller nonprofits, if you're doing any prospecting or you're engaging your past donors, your lapsed donors, often these techniques don't cost a lot at all, can be easily implemented. Like those ZIP+4 models can be used over and over to select lists. And that's just a few $1,000s to get that ZIP+4 list, all 34 million zips scored. That's easy to do, but it has to be a conversation. So that's where you start is, I can talk to you a half an hour and start to identify what you're doing, understand your budget, where you're spending money, and then I can tell you what next step to take to get value. So it's very, very dependent on what you're doing now and how you're spending your money and what your goals are. So we really have to better understand that nonprofit. But small ones can get benefit, and understanding who your donors are is a good first step.
I know we focus, it goes into another question someone had asked. So we focus mainly on talking about how this could increase donations. Could this same technology be used for targeting audiences for a survey or for a needs assessment?
Yes, it can. So for example, if you did a survey and you sent out 10,000 emails, you could do an analysis or model if those emails were costing you money to identify who's most likely to respond based on past responders. Often surveys are done more as a broader thing to gather information, But some of the survey questions too can be used to identify those likely to give large gifts versus small gifts, or key questions can be used as the basis of creating models to target or focus other information. Any lead generation activity, especially if you're doing it at scale, tens of thousands or more, you can do models to improve those processes. Now the value proposition, if the cost of doing the modeling versus the value you have to look at. So, if you're, I've had people come and they want to target 5,000 people and they want to spend, $2,000 on a model. I'm sitting there saying, just mail them all. You don't want to spend $2,000 on, for 5,000 people. For me to tell you which 40% not to mail, it's cheaper. Now, but if you're doing 100,000, then there's a great return on $2,000. And so we can estimate that beforehand. So it very much depends on the scale and what you're doing.
Thanks, Jerry. Those are all the questions that have come through so far live. So maybe we can go through some of those pre-webinar questions.
Yeah, so that we talked about how these can be automated to get very quickly get an understanding of who your donors are, and they get a model. We talked a little bit about how it works, and you don't really need to know how a neural network works. You just need to know that often it'll give you better performance than anything simple. To incorporate it, it depends on what you're doing. What fundraising activities are you doing? Whether you're doing social media or display ads, better understanding the content that you should be showing to different groups or segments, better understanding the segments, and having models to pick the best people, especially past donors, for example, is a high payoff area. And it's great value to be able to get rid of the 20 to 40% of the older ones that you shouldn't be marketing to, that aren't going to be profitable. The cost, it depends on the vendor you go to. There's some that'll charge you tens of thousands of dollars for these analysis because they do them manually. You can get the costs are coming way down. I mean, our insights briefs are $950. So you get a good model for a couple thousand. And then they go up from there based on the type of model and analysis that you want to do. And anytime you spend money, you got to look at, well, what's the likely result you're going to get? What's the increase in donations are you going to get? And that's a conversation that you have to have. And we do normally do those projections on the value proposition. And the training's not much. You can start by just giving us the files and having us do it. And then if you want to use the tool directly, we can show you in a couple hours. You could be, well, actually very quickly. If you're comfortable with that, you can pick it up on your own very quickly, or a half an hour. It's more about how you would use the information and interpret some of the charts that some people would need more training on. And we can do that incrementally. And it's best to do it with your own data, your own analysis of what these things mean. The best place to start is a conversation if you're interested. So I'm happy to have a conversation at no cost, half an hour, to talk to you about how you may or may not be able to use the technology and what it would cost and how do you get the value. That's the challenge. It's not the AI technology. It's how do you take the information, the outputs, and make more money from it? How do you do the ROI analysis to say, I'm going to get this much value from it? And then most of the other work is in things, tailoring the creative and the content, selecting the lists, who you're going to engage for this campaign or other. And the better I understand what you're already doing, the easier I can help you identify how best to take advantage of this technology. So, any other questions or comments or?
I think those are all the questions. If there are any other questions, go ahead and type them in now. Otherwise, we'll be adjourning a little bit early. So while you guys are thinking of some questions, I just wanted to emphasize that Jerry is offering 5 lucky winners to get a free insights and a conversation with him on how to use that. I do expect to send out those emails by the end of the day on Monday. So expect that. All of you will be receiving a follow-up email from me that will have access to the recording if you want to review anything, as well as these slide decks. I don't see any other questions coming in. Jerry, thank you so much for your time and for walking us through this amazing tool. And again, if anyone does want to reach out to Jerry, I will include his contact information in the follow-up email, and same as my information if you need to reach me as well. Hope you guys have a great, wonderful rest of the day, and we'll be in touch.
Thank y'all very much.